What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Evolution of DEXes panel here today as part of the CoinMarketCap series. I'm glad to be here with some people who are deeply involved in DeFi and going to share some of their experiences, opinions, and thoughts about what is going on in the DEX space. I still remember fondly my first time trying out Uniswap. It was actually on the Argent app on my phone early on in 2020, and then got all the way down into all these different types of DEXs. Now we have all these different DEXs on different exchanges or on different chains. We have stable swaps. We have all different types of math that is going into kind of creating the best trading environment for the DeFi ecosystem. So before we jump in, I'll allow everybody to hop in and kind of give a brief intro about what they're working on, what their experience is, and kind of how they got into DeFi. So we'll go ahead and start with Nikita and move along.
Hi, guys. My name is Nikita, and I'm one of the founding members of the Everscale network. It's a layer one blockchain network that's proof of stake and multi-sharded and multi-threaded blockchain. Actually, I also have some other projects in blockchain, in the NFT space, in the DeFi space, and I've been in the blockchain industry since early 2012. Actually, not a lot of people I've seen that been involved in the blockchain industry like longer than I've been. So yeah, nice to meet you all, man.
And Varun.
Hey guys, this is Varun here from Hashflow. So Hashflow. As top level definition, it's a decentralized exchange that is optimized for interoperability and MEV resistance and no slippage trades. So you can essentially go and swap any asset between any chains. Like you can send ETH, receive BNB if you like, natively without any bridge. So that's Hashflow, and I've been in the space since 2016. So before that, I was in the aerospace industry. I was a PhD student in aerospace engineering, and then one day ran into a friend in a hot tub who told me about Ethereum, and then got into crypto, and never looked back since then. So glad to be here.
And Captain.
Hey, hello guys. So this is Captain from ApolloX. So we are actually we're not only a DEX, we are a hybrid exchange. So we also have a centralized arm, and we also have a DEX arm, and features is our many trading products. And we share the liquidity between our CEX and our DEX, so that we can cater for both sides of users, and so that they can get the same level of execution. And for myself, actually, I used to be a futures broker in traditional financial markets, and then working with one of the top exchanges, which is the CEX one, for a few years before we started ApolloX.
And last but not least, over to Leonard.
Hi guys, my name is Leonard, co-founder of PearDAO. So PearDAO is a decentralized marketplace funded by BNB Chain Fund. Prior to our official launch, we were in the MVP labs. What we do essentially at this stage is to provide a decentralized alternative for fiat on-off ramp on the BNB chain. In the near future, we plan to expand to other chains, and also to provide other types of marketplace and services for different ecosystem and exchange of different on and off chain assets. As an official sponsor of the event, we're very happy to be here at the Capital and share some of our experience growing as a little bit of an alternative DEX, I would say. Happy to meet everyone here.
Sweet. All right. And Leonard, we'll start with you for the first question since you were last there. What are the most important utilities and functionalities of decentralized exchanges, and why are they important in terms of growing the overall crypto and decentralized finance ecosystem? You know, what makes the concept of decentralized exchanges so powerful, when comparing to traditional finance or even exchanges like a Binance or a Coinbase, and why are they so important?
I think, the core idea of a decentralized exchange is that is based on the idea of where you hold your own keys, right? I think that is very important. When we look back at the history of Web3 blockchain, like we want to take out the middleman, so everyone has their can be self-custody. They can control their own keys. I think based on that, DEX is the only tool in the financial world right now that can that is truly transparent, that allows you to track every single transaction, that is allow different players to enter freely without any restriction. We see that even with like some of the bigger exchanges who is more pro free trade. They, because of the fact that they are centralized, if eventually they will have to comply to one or the other centralized authority. So I think decentralized exchange, I wouldn't say is a way to work against that, but it kind of provides like an alternative to compete with that system, so that the ecosystem can evolve along the centralized financial system, kind of complementing each other.
Awesome. And same question to you over Nikita.
Yeah. I just want to say that as we, if we go back to the roots, at the time of Bitcoin, crypto gave us the opportunity, to hold our money and to be able to control it without, any other centralized authority or a bank or I don't know, anything. So we just basically gave us the opportunity to hold and to exchange our money, without any other, group of people to control us. And DEX is actually the representation of the spirit of blockchain, what I believe that we have to stay true to, because of course centralized exchanges and a lot of centralized and custodial services give us amazing opportunities, give us a lot of cool stuff that we can do with our crypto, but we have to be aware of what actually brought blockchain to the dance. Because again, the ability to hold your funds, to transfer it, and with the 100% certainty that nobody can interfere in your transaction, that's super important. And of course, DEXs are much slower than centralized exchanges. They're the transaction is much more expensive and less maybe convenient, I would say, but for some people that are more tech savvy, it's not that of a problem. But that the idea, the spirit of blockchain is in the DEX. So people control what they're doing, control their funds, control their transactions, and nobody can interfere with that. And that's actually, I think, the most important thing.
Yeah. Like one point I would like to add, like besides the fact that everyone can and the freedom of entry is very important, not just for the traders, I think, but also for other builders. So for example, if it is for example, if Coinbase doesn't give you permission to access their API, there's no way you can build on top of whatever they're doing right now. But on in a decentralized ecosystem on a DEX, you can take your LP to anywhere. I can, for example, in our project, right? We actually allow users to stake their cake LPs. That would be impossible in a centralized setting. We wouldn't be able to build on top of each other. I think that is one of the biggest advantage of DEX. The fact that every builder can build and compete and thrive alongside each other. I think that is one of the things that why we're all here.
Awesome. Yeah. So now that we've kind of laid the foundation for the importance of the ethos of crypto, which is this kind of decentralized, immutable, effectively unstoppable, ecosystem where we have these smart contracts that can't be turned off, even if there's a regulatory body that wanted to, the worst they could do is shut down a UI, you're right. And you could just kind of pop one up on a different server, and the smart contracts kind of keep running. Whereas on a centralized exchange, or these kind of collectively owned entities, there's that kind of ability to not A, own your own keys, and B, kind of not own the funds that you have because of the effects of potential regulatory bodies and others. So now that we've kind of made that that separation, I'd like to dive into kind of what the evolution of decentralized exchanges have started with and came to, and kind of what you guys think are some upgrades that are necessary to be able to rival that of a centralized exchange. So I'd like to start with Captain, because you mentioned that you guys are a bit of the hybrid model. Kind of walk us through kind of the evolution of DEXs and kind of what you see is the upgrades that are necessary to rival that of centralized exchanges capabilities.
Okay, sure. So I think the number one big success for the DEX is definitely the AMM model. So right now, if you look at the spot market, actually all the DEX combined is probably 10% of the CEX exchange. And as we all mentioned, I think we all agree that DEX is the future, given it's permissionless, as you guys mentioned. And I want to talk about futures a little bit more, because that's our major products. So if you look at whether the traditional financial markets or the centralized exchange, actually futures market is bigger than the spot market, and actually for some products it's much bigger. So if you look at only Bitcoin, the futures market on CEX is probably 5 times of the spot market. So there is a fundamental needs for users to trade futures, either for leverage or for short or for hedging. So those are the main functions for futures product. And I think that also applies to DEX. So basically, we want to take the ride for more and more savvy and mature users migrate to the DEX world. And what we see that needs to be improved in the future is still the performance for the DEX. So actually, our solution right now is to take the deposit and withdraw on chain, but actually the match engine is off chain. That is how we can share the liquidity and the match engine between our CEX and our DEX. And so I think given the technology like zero knowledge rollup coming out and the performance of blockchains to improve, and but we definitely want to see more steps to take everything on chain.
Yeah, awesome. And I think one of the bigger evolutions has been the idea of having a lot of these decentralized exchanges on different chains themselves. We've seen, I mean, probably at this point, 100 or more, or hundreds across all different layer 1 and layer 2 networks, and even on a Ethereum mainnet. But it seems like we're kind of dealing with an issue of kind of capital inefficiency and kind of like a segregation issue where there's capital all over the place, kind of causing rates to not really be as good as they could be if everybody was kind of in a central spot, or if you could aggregate all that capital together. So I'm curious what you think, Varun, about the idea of this multi-chain DEX, if that's kind of the evolutionary next step of being able to use liquidity on one chain and get an asset on a different chain. Kind of what are your thoughts on the overall concept of all these exchanges on all these different changes and kind of bringing them all together?
Absolutely. So I think let me quickly touch base on a brief history of evolution of DEXs and then transition to sort of the current multi-chain world and how the current state of interoperability looks like. So I think generally before Uniswap, I think the checks era was essentially you had a centralized exchange that took custody of assets and enabled people to swap on the centralized limit order book, right? So The pros, it was super efficient. You can have any markets, and they're really, really good for price discovery because anybody can go and essentially market make, and that leads to much more better organic price discovery that is informed by market data and sentiments. Cons, obviously, is you are essentially at the mercy of somebody else for your funds, and it's not quite as permissionless. So as a result, you're always living on the edge, actually. So now Uniswap or DEX model, what it did is it introduced permissionless trading, where anybody can just simply go connect their wallet and do a swap without the need for any intermediary to tell them what to do. But the cons was it took the pendulum to the other way, right? So where price discovery became a lot more challenging. In fact, you needed lots of capital in the pools in order to have good pricing on the assets. And you couldn't really use AMMs sort of or on-chain pricing to do anything that goes beyond spot or blue chips, right? So for I'm speaking of things like options or derivative assets. And even more complicated is if you wanted to build something like interoperability to allow for swapping between different chains, it becomes even more complex or nearly impossible to have a good price discovery around that. So it is sort of where I think I was going to mention like a Hashflow approach, or generally my thinking around the space is that the future is going to be somewhere in the middle, where it's going to be a hybrid of centralized versus decentralized, right? So where it's not going to be extremely centralized, it won't be decentralized either, in the sense that we can have price discovery be centralized, so for market makers still quote, but the trading aspect could be decentralized, where people can use that to do a swap. So which is kind of what we do at Hashflow, is we essentially have market makers is issuing quotes via RFQ, and they cryptographically sign each quote. And then your trader, at the end of the day, he just connects their wallet, gets a quote, and then submits the trade on chain, right? So the good thing about this design is it gets around things like MEV exploits or slippage and enables better price discovery. But also when you're building something in a multi-chain world, being able to swap not only within a chain, but also between chains becomes really, really seamless. And the reason is because if you look at the current state of cross-chain, essentially everyone is trying to build some kind of a generalized message passing system, right? So the game is essentially you need an external validator set that you trust to say like a transaction has taken place on chain one, on a source chain, and then you need a relayer who can relay that message on the destination chain, right? So once you have this fundamental ready to go, at that point, what you're doing really is you worry about how do you price assets on both sides. If you use something like AMM, then you can do an AMM swap on one end. Then you can use some form of bridge to bridge the asset on the other side. And bridging essentially means you escrow something and you mint something on the other end, and then you do another swap on the other side, right? So, which is an interesting approach, but it doesn't really work again in terms of price discovery. So what we did essentially is we let, again, market makers to quote the assets directly from their end user account or end user wallet. And then once the price has been discovered and it's been signed, then you do one transfer on chain one, and then you use a message passing to validate that transaction. And then you do the second native transfer on chain two or destination chain, which essentially removes all the issues we talked about in terms of liquidity segregation or having complicated price discovery math and not being able to do things rightly, or even issues like cross-domain MEV or slippage. They kind of become obsolete because now you already agreed upon the price, and you can just do two native swaps with some kind of a message passing in between, right? So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, fantastic. Any comments or follow-ups?
Yeah, if it's possible, I would like to comment on that. Actually, I think that 2022 will be the year where a lot of so-called layer zero solutions will be created. By layer zero, I mean solutions that connect different type of chains, because there are already a lot of DEXs and with a lot of types of functionality on a lot of chains, but in terms of bridges, there's still not a lot. And basically what you're talking about is like a solution where a bridge and a DEX could be connected. And actually, we are also working on it on our side. So basically, so you like on a DEX, you have so DEX is a solution where on one chain you just take one asset, so other asset and just swap it. A bridge basically is you take the same type of asset but on one chain and get another chain. But if you combine these two, basically you can get a solution where you just select an asset on one chain and select a different asset on a different chain. And basically, you push the button, and it can all happen inside a black box. And the interesting thing is that, well, one of the reasons why these solutions can be really, really cool. So, like for example, in traditional finance, if you want to swap some exotic, Canadian dollar to New Zealand dollar, the pair is still through a dollar, through United States dollar. And the same thing can happen on chains other than Ethereum, because now Ethereum is not the most, I would say, cheap network to do transactions and so on. So basically, it can be operated through other chains that are much more cheaper than Ethereum, and there are actually lots of chains already like that right now. So basically, it swaps the asset to one chain, then does the bridges the asset to one chain, does the swap, and then does the bridge all inside one operation. And that's actually could be really cool. And I think that this will give again next level of adoption, and because it actually will bring a lot of maybe non-conventional or not so popular assets to people. So basically widen the range of assets that normal people operate with.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked to see the development of that concept, where there's a lot of actions and transactions happening kind of in the background, but for the front end user, it's just like, you want this asset on this chain or this asset here. And it's effectively done for you without really understanding kind of the back end. And that's crucial for the overall growth of DeFi and kind of seeing it, really just grow to the level that, we think it can with, hundreds of millions of users. It's got to be that easy and efficiency using all the liquidity that we can and the easiest routes possible. So we are wrapping up here with 5 minutes left. So would like to talk about the future a bit more of DEXs kind of. So we've established the AMM model, the Uniswaps, seeing kind of what we have now on multiple chains, and we've touched on the hybrid model kind of on this layer zero model. So what are some other improvements that you guys are seeing or have seen or would like to see in the future of decentralized exchanges from a user point of view, whether it be, failed transactions or MEV protection or just, some other various issues that we currently have? What are some things that you guys envision seeing be improved? And please just take a minute or two here on this one. So we'll start with Captain, move to Leonard, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure. So in terms of futures market, actually, I like to say user experiences are still the number one that I want to mention. So if you compare with centralized exchange, the liquidity on DEX is still much less. And if you compare the trading pairs and the DEX also is much less comparing to centralized exchange. So I think for the existing pairs, the trading experience is almost as good, but improve liquidity and having more trading pairs, I think would be more important for futures DEX to cater users.
I have a slightly different take. So I think the DEX experience is actually very comparable to CX for an average user. So for an average user that uses convert function on Binance or Coinbase, trading on DEX is actually very comparable. I know we have less liquidity, but then for average user is acceptable. The major hurdle that's actually stopping user from mass migrating to DEX, I think there are two. First is fiat on-off ramp. I think no matter how are you going to get your asset to on-chain asset? You have to go through a centralized exchange nowadays. So because of that, a lot of users just stay in the centralized exchange. Whoever cracked this problem will probably be the next major DEX, I think. The other thing is for an average user, from a user experience perspective, I know the panelists here probably think like me, the private key is probably superior to a traditional password username password system. But if you ask any non-crypto user, average user, they actually, a lot of them actually still like the fact that there is a centralized organization that can help you recover that password and username. That's one of the things why they are willing to go through that KYC process, because they get a peace of mind whenever if they lose that password, they will be able to recover it. So I think whoever kind of cracks this key management problem for average user, that can give them peace of mind knowing that okay, if I lose this, there is a way to recover, a reliable way to recover it while retaining my privacy. That will also be a massive win, I think, for DEX. So whoever kind of solve the on-off-ramp problems and also the key management problem will drastically improve the experience of the DEX, and as a result will be, I think, the next leader in the market. That's why we're working on the decentralized on-off-ramp. I'm not sure whether we are the one that's going to crack it, but then I think that is very important for a decentralized future.
Varun, just 1 minute left.
I think generally, I think my take here is on the AMM side, we sort of kind of reached, I think, the peak of the innovation in terms of what can we do at the bonding or pricing or bonding curve level. So I think the next evolution is going to be all about execution and building a good user experience and price discovery, right? So I think with Unity v3 was quite good, and I think beyond this, most innovation is going to happen at the pricing level, and obviously, like you mentioned, what makes the user experience for both for retail as well as institutionals to come in, because I think that's one area that's been untapped yet, in the sense that what can we do to bring on board the next $1 trillion that's sitting out there that hasn't quite made it to DeFi yet. And I think looking into what caters to that audience would be something to look into. Because I think what DEXs did is they made the trading experience quite seamless, actually, right? It's literally you go and you do a swap, and then it's great. It's essentially now what do you need to solve for to onboard the next set of users and make the execution and pricing more seamless.
Well, I think we're about out of time. Thank you guys for coming on and sharing your thoughts about the current environment. We're all excited to see it grow. And thank you to CoinMarketCap for having us.